It was a stunning device. Made of polished stainless steel and white polycarbonate, it was smaller than a deck of cards and could hold 1,000 songs. It connected to a computer with a fast firewire cable, allowing a whole CD to be transferred in just a few seconds. To complement the iPod, Apple created iTunes, a piece of software that made it incredibly easy to manage a digital music library and sync it to the device. Together, the iPod and iTunes created a complete ecosystem that was years ahead of anything else on the market. The iPod was more than just a music player, it became a cultural phenomenon. The iconic white earbuds were suddenly everywhere, a symbol that you were part of this new, digital music revolution. The iPod changed the way we listen to music, allowing us to carry our entire collection with us wherever we went. It liberated music from the confines of CDs and stereos, and made it a constant personal soundtrack to our lives. It also set the stage for Apple's next big moves by establishing the company as a leader in consumer electronics, and demonstrating the power of a tightly integrated hardware, software, and services ecosystem. After the massive success of the iPod, Steve Jobs started to worry about what could kill it. He looked at the market and saw that mobile phones were starting to include cameras and basic music players. He knew it was only a matter of time before someone created a phone that was also a great music player, making the iPod obsolete. He decided that Apple had to be the company to do it. He famously said that if you don't cannibalize your own products, someone else will. So he set two secret teams to work on a revolutionary new phone. One team was tasked with evolving the iPod into a phone, while the other explored a more radical idea, turning the Mac's operating system into a mobile platform. The challenge was immense. Jobs hated the mobile phones of the day. He thought they were ugly, complicated, and honestly kind of stupid. They were loaded with physical keyboards that took up half the device and software that was impossible to use. His vision was for a phone with a giant screen and no physical keyboard. The entire front of the device would be a display. The interface would be controlled by touch, using the most natural pointing device we all have, our fingers. This was a radical concept. Engineers told him it was impossible. The touchscreens at the time were not accurate enough, and the processing power needed would be too great for a small device. Jobs, in his typical fashion, refused to accept these limitations. He pushed his teams to invent the technology needed to make his vision a reality. They developed a revolutionary multi-touch screen that was incredibly precise and could recognize gestures like pinching to zoom and swiping to scroll. They took Apple's powerful desktop operating system, OS X, and shrunk it down to run on a mobile chip, creating a mobile operating system that was light years ahead of the competition. They designed a sleek, beautiful object made of glass and steel that felt more like a piece of art than a piece of technology. The project was top secret, known internally as Project Purple. On January 9, 2007, Steve Jobs walked onto the stage at the Macworld conference and gave the most important presentation of his life. He announced that Apple was introducing 3 revolutionary products: a widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary mobile phone, and a breakthrough internet communications device. Then came the punchline. These are not 3 separate devices, this is one device, and we are calling it iPhone. The audience erupted. The iPhone changed everything. It wasn't just a phone, it was a powerful computer in your pocket. It redefined what a phone could be and set the course for the entire mobile industry for the next decade and beyond. Even before the iPhone was finished, Steve Jobs was thinking about the next big thing. He had been exploring the idea of a tablet computer for years. The core technology for the iPhone, the multi-touch screen, was actually developed first for a tablet prototype. But Jobs decided to put the tablet project on hold and focus on the phone first, believing it was a more important market. After the iPhone's incredible success, he returned to the tablet idea. He saw a gap in the market between the laptop and the smartphone. He envisioned a third category of device that would be better than either for certain tasks like browsing the web, reading email, enjoying photos, and watching videos. The critics were skeptical. Many in the tech industry had tried to create tablet computers before, and all had failed. They were typically heavy, underpowered laptops with clunky stylus-based interfaces. The world, they argued, did not need another device to carry around. They called it just a big iPhone. But Jobs had a different vision. He wasn't thinking about it as a stripped-down computer. He saw it as a magical and revolutionary device, an intimate new way to interact with content. He wanted to create a device that was so simple and intuitive that it felt like it disappeared, leaving only the user and their content. The development of the iPad was classic Apple. The design team obsessed over every detail. They worked to make it as thin and light as possible. They crafted a beautiful aluminum unibody enclosure that felt solid and premium in the hands. The software team designed a whole new set of applications that were built from the ground up to take advantage of the large 9.7-inch screen. It wasn't just about scaling up iPhone apps, it was about rethinking the user experience for a larger canvas. The goal was to create a device that was perfect for leaning back on a couch and casually interacting with the digital world. When Steve Jobs unveiled the iPad on January 27, 2010, the initial reaction was mixed. But once people got their hands on it, they understood. It was a profoundly different experience. It was incredibly fast, simple, and enjoyable to use. The iPad created an entirely new category of computing and was a massive success, selling millions of units in its first few months. It became a beloved device for reading books and magazines, watching movies, playing games, and even for use in schools and businesses. The iPad proved once again that Steve Jobs had an uncanny ability to create products that people didn't know they wanted until they saw them. In 1985, Apple was a very different company. After the initial success of the Apple II, the launch of the Macintosh in 1984 was met with excitement but disappointing sales. The Mac was revolutionary, but it was expensive and lacked software. Tensions grew inside the company between Steve Jobs and the CEO he had hired, John Sculley, who came from Pepsi-Cola. They had different visions for the future. Sculley was a traditional marketing executive focused on profits and process, while Jobs was the passionate, product-focused founder. The conflict came to a head, and in a boardroom power struggle, the Apple board sided with Sculley. At the age of 30, Steve Jobs was forced out of the company he had co-founded. This was a devastating blow for Jobs. He felt publicly humiliated and lost. For a time, he didn't know what to do. But his passion for building great things couldn't be suppressed for long. He decided to start over. He founded a new computer company called Next, which aimed to build powerful workstations for the higher education and business markets. The Next computers were technologically brilliant and beautifully designed, but they were too expensive and failed to gain commercial traction. During this time, he also purchased a small computer graphics division from George Lucas and turned it into Pixar Animation Studios. This venture would prove to be wildly successful. Meanwhile, Apple was struggling without him. By the mid-1990s, the company was in serious trouble. It had a confusing product line, its market share had plummeted, and it was losing massive amounts of money. The company was just months away from bankruptcy. In a desperate move, Apple's board decided to acquire Next in 1997, not just for its advanced operating system, but to bring Steve Jobs back. He returned first as an advisor, and then, after the board ousted the current CEO, he became the interim CEO, a title he playfully shortened to ICEO. His return marked one of the greatest comeback stories in business history. Jobs moved quickly and decisively to save the company. He slashed the bloated product line, reducing dozens of confusing models down to just 4. He forged a controversial partnership with rival Microsoft to get investment and a commitment to keep making software for the Mac. He launched the iconic Think Different advertising campaign to restore Apple's bruised brand. He oversaw the creation of a string of hit products, starting with the colorful iMac in 1998, which revitalized the company. His return to Apple ushered in the most innovative and successful period in the company's history, leading to the creation of the iPod, iPhone, and iPad, and turning a near-bankrupt company into the most valuable in the world. Steve Jobs was a unique and often polarizing leader. He was not a traditional manager who relied on spreadsheets and market research. He led with passion, intuition, and an uncompromising will. He created a culture at Apple that was focused on secrecy, excellence, and a deep collaboration between different teams. He believed that the best ideas came from small, passionate groups of people working together. He would wander into the design studio of Jony Ive, his chief design officer and creative partner, almost every day. They would spend hours looking at prototypes, refining every curve, every material, and every pixel until it was perfect. This fusion of design and engineering was at the heart of Apple's magic. His famous reality distortion field was a term his colleagues used to describe his unique blend of charisma, charm, and sheer force of will. He could convince people that the impossible was possible, He set impossibly high standards and pushed his employees to achieve things they never thought they could. While this could make him a difficult person to work for, it was also what drove Apple to create its string of revolutionary products. He believed that the journey was the reward, and that building a truly great product was its own form of art. His passion was contagious and inspired a generation of designers and engineers to do the best work of their lives. Jobs' legacy is not just in the products he created, but in the ideas he championed. He taught us that technology does not have to be cold and complicated. It can be beautiful, elegant, and human. He proved that focusing on the user experience, on how a product makes you feel, is just as important as the technology inside it. He showed the world the power of integrating hardware, software, and services into a single, seamless ecosystem. This philosophy, once radical, has now become the standard that every major technology company tries to emulate. He truly put a dent in the universe. Today, his influence is all around us. It is in the smartphone we use to navigate our lives, the tablet on which we read, and the way we listen to music. He changed not just one industry, but several: personal computing, animated movies, music, phones, and retail. He was a rebel, a visionary, a perfectionist, and a genius. He was one of the crazy ones, the misfits, the troublemakers he celebrated in the Think Different campaign. He believed that the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. And Steve Jobs did just that. He changed the world forever.